Hi friends, welcome to the Share Report. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And for those who are returning, thank you so much for being here and for your support. So we're going to dive right into this video. This is something a little different. I'm going to do something different today. This video, we're going to talk about some phrases that we have been fed, propagandized, some Edward Bernays terminologies that we have been fed over the years, some bills that have some Edward Bernays terminologies, some phrases that we have been fed, consistently on our mainstream media, that they often say mainstream media. I like to call it corporate owned media, because that's definitely what it is. They're corporate owned. They're doing all their biddings. They're talking points, no information, nothing independent is being fed to us, but it's all corporate owned propaganda that we're fed over and over and over again to help us or make us believe a certain thing or think a certain way, to propagandize us, to Edward Bernays us, to Manchuria candidate us. So I want to talk about some of those phrases, and I have my trusty little book here because I like to write down some notes and things that I think about, especially for videos, contents, and some notes and things that I do not want to forget. And leave a comment below if I'm missing any Edward Bernays terminologies, because I think I am missing quite a bit. There's a lot over the years, but these are some that I know from my time frame of living on Earth, and probably even before me. So, and then at the very end, I'm going to play a very short clip from Colonel Leroy Fletcher Prouty. He served in operations under JFK's administration. He's going to be giving us some insight about the last propaganda terminology, Edward Bernays terminology, that we have been fed over the years. He's going to give us an insight there. But we will start with number one, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. So I found that very interesting, because a lot of the Planned Parenthood places actually are very much pro not being a parent. They're hindering you from being a parent. Not all things, not all the services that they provide. They do provide some health things. But for the most part, Planned Parenthood. It's another propaganda terminology there. And I was thinking, I said, I wonder if Adam and Eve had Planned Parenthood. I don't think they did, but just curious. All right, number two, the Patriot Act. Oh, what another one there. Patriot Act. So it sounds like you're being patriotic to your people, but instead, it's actually you're spying on them. We're telling your secrets, we're spying on you, and we're making you believe that we're protecting you and all the things, except we're not. We're violating the Constitution, and we're spying on you, but we're going to call it the Patriot Act. That wonderful Edward Bernays terminology there. All right, let's go on. Inflation Reduction Act. Oh, remember that a couple years ago they were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act? So what I gathered was inflation is like this, but when you're reducing it, you're making it smaller. So in essence, you should be reducing your spending, but instead the Inflation Reduction Act inflated it more. So more propaganda, more Edward Bernays. I get it. All right, Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Ooh, there's another one, Affordable Care Act. So interesting, because if you don't have your health insurance, we will fine you, which will not be affordable at all. Look at that terminology there, Affordable Care Act. And also more money, millions and millions of dollars more was spent on the Affordable Care Act than previous years before. Not only did we unconstitutionally force you to get health insurance that you may not have wanted, we fined you for it, but we called it the Affordable Care Act. Interesting. Another Edward Bernays terminology there. Defense contractors. Interesting. Homeland Security, another one. So we are Homeland Security. We're securing the homeland, and we're also giving money to the defense contractors to go and invade other people's homeland to secure our land. Is that how that works? We're pillaging them and taking their resources, but we're calling it Homeland Security. And defense contractors, which more likely is like offense contractors. or stealing people's stuff and making money from it and profiting from it. Okay, so you get it there. Defense contractors, another one, another Edward Bernays terminology in Homeland Security, another one there. Okay, partner. Okay, so instead of calling your husband or your wife, they're your partner. So you don't know if you're married to a male or female. Everybody's neutral. It confuses people. So it makes the whole genders disappear. Both genders disappear. Partner. That's interesting. Another propaganda. More and more propaganda. Edward Bernays terminology there. Just FYI, future husband, if you are out there, you're going to call me your wife and I'm going to call you husband. We're not going to be partners. No. Okay, male person. So another one of those gender neutral things. So you can't say spokeswoman or spokesman or mailman. It's going to be male person. More propaganda. Oh, we're down to the last two. So we have climate change, which also once upon a time used to be called global warming. But the climate's always changing. I mean, that's what seasons are about. And the climate has been changing for thousands and thousands of years. That's what the earth does. So to create fear and let you know, hey, the climate is changing over thousands of years. It's going to get warmer and warmer when it hasn't changed in 10,000 years, or maybe just a little teeny point something 0.003% or less than that. So we're going to call it climate change instead of global warming. Okay, because that doesn't work. Last but not least, fossil fuel. Interesting. Fossil fuel, that's another propaganda terminology. Edward Bernays, more just trying to confuse you and brainwash you with that terminology, fossil fuel, because you know there's only so many fossils, right? So once the fossil fuel runs out, the fossils run out, there's no more fuel. So that's why they're making you call it fossil fuel, because it's going to run out eventually, which is so interesting. Like I had mentioned, the colonel was going to come on and talk about in 1892 in Geneva, Switzerland, how they had a meeting to actually promote the oil to be called fossil fuel, to propagandize, to make us think a certain way, which I found very interesting, because they say that fossil fuels are only 16,000 feet deep in the earth. Yet they drill further, they drill almost twice below that, 30,000 feet down. So I find that very interesting. So we're going to play this video, let you see it. But what are your thoughts? What are other propaganda terminologies and Edward Bernays terminologies that have been fed to us over the years? I'd like to know. Leave in the comments. I'm going to play this video, so do not leave. In the meantime, be sure to share this video, like all the things, subscribe. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll be back with more videos.
And remember, trains started in the beginning of the 19th century. Then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of the petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, there's no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were, some of it, almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. Boy, after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well. You know, that kind of thing. Well, a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass, and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why they decided to use the word fossil, but it says formerly living matter, it's fossil. Well, of course, today, and another thing we should know is that there has never been a fossil, a real fossil found below 16,000 feet. And you can't argue at 16,000 as a level line, because someplace the ground sinks and so on. But 16 is what the scientists say, 16,000. We mine oil, or we drill for oil at 30,000, 33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, and actually if you know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth.